you may have seen in the news on Saturday night or yesterday or today that on Saturday, the Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett flew to Moscow for talks with President Putin, which strikes me as being remarkable, that in the middle of all this chaos, and Putin is clearly not in the mood to listen to the world's leaders. He occasionally will have a phone call with Macron, and yet the head of Israel, the Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, flew to Moscow and had a face-to-face conversation with Putin for nearly 3 hours on Saturday afternoon. And didn't particularly want this news to come out, but of course it did. And to us, it's particularly interesting. And why is it interesting? Well, it seems to me that how is Israel at the center of what's happening with Russia and Ukraine? How is it that they are the ones trying to create this peace? And of course, we know that ultimately it's going to be the king of Israel. There's the irony. That's the one that's going to bring peace to this situation and all others. There's just some notes from that article. Mr. Putin told Mr. Bennett that taking into account Moscow's security interests was among the conditions for settling the conflict. Israel, he says, is keen to remain aligned with its US ally on the crisis, but is also mindful of Moscow's military sway in next door Syria, because, of course, Moscow is the king of the north, hence they're there, where Israel regularly strikes Iranian targets who will be with the king of the north. And so just in this dialogue and this conversation that happened on Saturday afternoon, we just see something of interest to us in the last days. The Wall Street Journal reported today, Israel's Bennett speaks with Putin. Zelensky separately in an effort to mediate the Ukraine crisis. And he says his conversation with Russian leader in Moscow touched on the safety of Ukraine's Jewish population. Now, we know, don't we, that the king of the north, Russia, Putin, has spoken previously about his interest in the Russian population of Jews in Israel. And so we wonder again that there's an irony there. Now, just to add a little more flavor to this, the articles today, 3:00 this afternoon, the Daily Mail published on their website, Zelensky calls for talks with Putin as the Turkish President Erdogan and Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett joins world leaders in pressing Russia for peace. So how interesting that now not only are we seeing Bennett having the conversation with Putin, but so too Erdogan. And so this headline from today, could Israel and Turkey hold the key to an Iranian-Russia peace deal? How interesting, given that we know that the king of the north's path down to Israel will be first to drop into Turkey. And that's because the image empire, the image of Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar, we see the eastern and the western legs stood up. That Gog of the land of Magog is the image of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And he will have 1 foot in Istanbul, in Constantinople, as it was, of course, the old capital of Rome, in the eastern side, and 1 foot of the image will be in Rome. All right, so that's just of interest that we see these headlines today.